Well, let me begin tonight by saying good evening to everybody. My name is Pastor E.C. Maltby. I serve as senior pastor here at True Holiness Saints Center. And I just wanted to take just a moment to welcome all of you to our Political Forum 2025. Our goal every year with our Political Forum is to provide a safe space for our community to come together and learn more about the candidates. When you look around this room, no doubt you'll see Democrats, Republicans, and independents. You'll see those who are decided and those who are undecided voters. But one thing we should all have in common is that we care about the Conway School District. And we want to see the best for our administration, for our teachers, for our support staff, and certainly for our precious children. And because this is a safe space tonight, but a safe space full of diverse people, you may hear someone or something that you don't agree with. And that's okay. And if and when that happens, the appropriate response is silence. Now, if I was on Sunday morning, I'd say, help me say silence. That means no boos, no funny looks, no speaking out of turn, and certainly no disruptive behavior. Because first and foremost, this is the house of God, and it is a safe space for every member of our community. And so with that being said, I'm going to invite to the podium the superintendent of Conway Public Schools, Dr. Cullum, for our invocation. Let's welcome him at this time.
Thank you, Pastor Maltby. It's an honor, privilege to be here tonight. If you would, please bow with me for a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, I thank you for this opportunity and the privilege to be here tonight, to give you glory and honor for all the great things that you have done and will continue to do. Father God, I thank you that your word tells us in Psalms 133:1, behold how good and pleasant it is when brethren dwell together in unity. Lord, I thank you tonight that as we come together as this community to discuss and share our ideas about how we can better serve and support our schools, that we do this in love, a spirit of peace, harmony, and ultimately unify for this purpose. God, as a father of 3 sons, as the superintendent with oversight of almost 10,000 precious students and 1,300 staff members, I pray that tonight you will give us all wisdom, guidance, peace, and patience as we learn more about how to work together for the common good of serving these students and these staff. Lord, I pray a blessing over each candidate that's here tonight. Father, thank you for the communities that they passionately love, serve, and represent. Thank you for their hearts to serve and volunteer and give their time as a leader in this community and possibly as a future school board member. I pray that you give them all clarity of thought, peace of mind, and unity of spirit as we share this forum tonight. In your Son's precious name we pray. Jesus Christ, amen.
Thank you so much. Tonight, let me introduce to some and present to others our moderator for the evening. Our moderator has his bachelor's and master's degree in journalism. He also has a doctorate in mass communication. He worked 8 years at the Jonesboro Sun newspaper, 12 years as managing editor of the Log Cabin Democrat, and most recently retired from UCA after 19 and a half years as a journalism professor. He and his wife Tammy have a granddaughter named Kennedy, and she is certainly the apple of their eye. Please welcome our moderator, David Keith.
Thank you, Pastor Malpia. You shortchanged me. UCA still has me for 2 more weeks. I want to quickly go over a couple of the ground rules that all the candidates have seen these. They've received them well in advance. We went over them again tonight. There is a little bit of variation because we've got all sorts of configurations of candidates here, and I will go over specifics as we get to each of the forums for the candidates as well. The candidates have been told that they cannot have any campaign material or whatever with them up here. They also are not allowed to bring any written notes or whatever. Well, they are being provided with a pencil or pen and paper in case they want to make some notes while they are up here. They've been informed of the time limits that they will have for each of their addresses and responses to the questions. And like I said, I will go over those with everybody as we get started. I would like to ask one thing, kind of following up on what Reverend Malpia said, so that we can get to as many questions as possible. I would like to ask you as students, see, you can see what I'm used to doing. As the candidates respond to questions or make their statements, I'd ask that you'd hold your applause, and that just gives us more time for them to talk more by able to doing that. But right now, we will begin with the Zone 5 race. One of our candidates, Leona Walton, is not with us tonight because she has an excused absence to attend her grandson's military graduation in Virginia, I believe, is where she is. And so what we are going to do with this case is Terrence Fuller will be speaking on his mother's behalf. He will have 2 minutes to speak. And then Tom Kennedy, the other candidate in this race, he also will have a 2-minute opening statement. And then I will ask Mr. Kennedy 2 questions, and for which he will have 2 minutes to respond, and then he will have 1 minute for a closing statement. So if you would please welcome Tom Kennedy and Terrence Fuller to the front of the room, we'll get started. Mr. Fuller, whenever you're ready, you have 2 minutes.
Well, good evening, everyone. It is so great to see everybody here. I am just elated to see the engagement and the participation from all of you that are here today. It just it shows a lot about this community and how much you really care about the students and the staff that is here. Obviously, I am not Miss Leona. I am her son, Terrence Fuller. I will say a little quick disclosure. I'm going to mention her first name a couple times for 2 reasons. One, I want you to remember her as you go to the polls on May the 6th, early voting, and on May the 13th. And also, I don't get to call her Leona a lot. And so I'm going to take the full opportunity to mention her name up front. As is mentioned, she is not here today as she is traveling to Virginia to see her grandson graduate the AIT training for the Army, in which on Monday he will be leaving for Germany. So she is certainly there. If you know her, or you will soon get to know her, she's going to be there for her babies, right? That is also just another testimony of really what she believes in. She doesn't believe that, all students may not want to go to college. And one thing that she firmly believes in is supporting career development for kids and who may not see college as an option. So really providing the opportunities and support for those who may find something else. I hope that her presence is felt here today. As you can see, come stop by her table, take a picture with her. She is here, and she really wants you to know that she is 10 toes down. She is here fully engaged in this process, and she hopes that she gets your support to help her be the difference that makes a difference. Thank you.
Mr. Kennedy, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Tom Kennedy, and I'm running for Zone 5 for the Conway School Board. I'm currently on the school board. I was appointed to the board when Mr. Milburn passed away, and so I've been appointed on there since about October of last year. So I'll tell you about growing up. I was a military child, and my father moved us around a lot, and I went to 8 different schools in K through 12, which was a lot of moving parts and meeting new kids and things like that. Of those 8 schools, 6 of those were public schools, and 2 of those were private Catholic schools. So I had a pretty good variety of different types of education in different, multiple states, things like that. When I graduated high school, I also joined the military. I did 10 years in the Air Force as an X-ray tech or radiological technologist, which just means I'm really good at math. And then I did 10 years, and then the military actually brought me to Arkansas, and I was stationed at Little Rock Air Force Base. When I got out, I went back to Michigan, where what I considered my home at the time, and then I actually missed it here, and I came back. Now, I have 4 children. Now, one of them is 28. His mother lives in Arizona, and he grew up with her. And then when he was 18, he asked if he could move here with me, and he's been staying here in Arkansas ever since. And then I have Lexi and Madison. Lexi graduated from the high school, Conway High School, 3 years ago, and she gets her bachelor's in psychology Friday. Madison is a senior at Conway High School. And one thing I want to address is the elephant in the room is I do have a child that goes to a private school, and he goes to Conway Christian, but that's for very personal reasons. The structure that he needed just didn't fit well with public school system, and so with my experience in the private school, that's why we elected to put him there.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Kennedy will now have, I'm going to give him 2 questions, and he'll have 90 seconds to respond to each question.
Okay.
So, Mr. Kennedy, as you said, you are serving on the school board now as an appointed member. How has your perspective of a school board member's role and responsibility, even what you hope to accomplish as a board member, changed in the time from the time before you served?
Sure. So when you're on a school board, your role is you're managing the superintendent. You're the people that hire the superintendent. You look for the qualities that you feel are best in a school board, and there's several of you to take those ideas from. Now, I may not be the best person, say, for knowing what to do to get a reading specialist. But I'll tell you where I am really good is safety. And so one thing that I look for when we're going to have a superintendent, or if we're going to be looking at things in the school system, is how can we make our kids safer? I have been a firefighter for 6 years, EMT for the same amount of time. I've been a police officer here in this city for 15 years. There is no other candidate that's going to have a better idea of how to keep our children safe. I managed our school resource officers all of last year and just finally got them transferred to a different lieutenant. And so our role is to find areas in the school that need assistance or help, talk to the people in our districts and what are they looking for, or what do they need, or what do their children need, and bring those ideas to the other board members and to the superintendent, and then make changes as needed if they are needed. And so basically it's not a difficult process if you take it in stride, get those ideas, get what the public wants to know, and then bring it to the board and the superintendent, and then go from there.
Your second question, you also have 90 seconds on this. And I've talked to people from throughout the political spectrums or attitudes toward our society and all. An ongoing concern that I get in this community is the Conway School Board needs to be more open in its processes. It needs to ensure that patrons are informed about what the school board is discussing and considering. How would you rate the school board's communication and transparency, and are there ways you think they could be improved?
Okay. I've been on the board since October, so that's a very short time for me to come up with a very strong opinion on this. I do believe that there are ways that we as board members could be more transparent. there are ways that we could try to reach out to the community and to the public. I feel like we have strived to allow members to speak, and there's different things that happen at board meetings, and we would love for everyone to be able to come speak and say their mind, but when people come up and just talk for half an hour, it turns into a filibuster. And so there are constraints on that. But it is important that you come up and talk, and I think some people just don't know the process. And if you don't, come ask me, and I would love to have you come up there and do that. As far as us being transparent, there are some ideas that I have that if we're doing things that I can put stuff on my Facebook page, I can try to meet with people. I have an email at the school system. I don't mind if you have my private email and email me that way. I'd be glad to give that to you. But I do think we could always do better. We're never going to be perfect. With transparency or teaching or education, we're human. God made us human. God made us to where we aren't perfect. He's the only one that is. And we can always do better, and I am willing to do better and to listen to anyone with any ideas that you have. And my temperament, I'm not going to get upset or mad at anyone in that regards.
Mr. Kennedy, now you have 1 minute for a closing statement.
Thank you. So I touched on, I'm in law enforcement. I've been to a multitude of classes. I was at the Drug Enforcement Administration for 2 years. I know pretty much everything there is to know about drugs if there was to become a problem in the school system. I was on their special response team, which is a SWAT team. When it comes to safety, that's what I can give to our children, okay? I'm not the reading person. I am a math person, I'll say that, and like social studies and kind of the nuances of the school system, but I can bring that safety aspect better than anyone else can bring that. And I have, being at the police department, I'm aware of some things that are happening. I can kind of keep my thumb on the pulse of the school system as that happens. So that's kind of my knack and what I can do and what I can give back. I love being a member of this community. I love helping people, or I wouldn't have spent my entire adult life giving back to my community, whether it was the military, fire department, EMS, or police, or this school board.
Thank you very much. And now, please congratulate both our representative and our candidate in this race. And I'll also ask Barrett Petty and Jason Sandifer to come forward for position 1. Go ahead, give them a hand. These two gentlemen, Barrett Petty on my left, Jason Sandifer on my right, are seeking the position 1 position on the school board. This represents roughly northeastern portion of the school district and the city of Conway, and it goes, of course, beyond the city of Conway. We do not have an incumbent in this race. I will say that the order of the opening statements, the order that the candidates receive questions, and the order that they make their closing statements, both in this race and in the following race that we will have, we determined all this by random draws and coin tosses before this started. In this particular format, each of the candidates will have 90 seconds to make an opening statement, and then we will have the question and answer segment. Pay attention. The first candidate to answer the question will have 1.5 minutes to respond. The second candidate will then have 2 minutes for a response, and the first candidate will then have an additional 30 seconds, and we will alternate who gets the question first on each of these, and then they will have 1 minute for a closing statement at the end. All right, and so based on our coin toss earlier, Mr. Sandifer, you have the first opening statement, and you have 90 seconds. All right.
Well, thank you all for being here. As I look around tonight, I see some familiar faces and some faces that I met just a few minutes ago before we started, and also see a lot of faces that I haven't met. One thing you'll get to know about me is I love engaging with members of our community of all walks of life. In fact, I served 2 years on the board, and when I did that, that's exactly what I did. Had a lot of people who wanted to come and they wanted to talk. They wanted to share with me on things they agreed with, things they didn't agree with, on ideas that they had, on things they wanted to see in our school. And I loved every moment of that. In fact, aside from serving our children and putting them first, I'm going to say that was the most rewarding part of being on the board, and I'll tell you about that in just a moment. But getting to engage with the community. If I haven't met you yet, when we're done here and we're back at our tables, I'd love for you to come up. I'd love to shake your hand, see a smile on your face, and hear what you think. So I am almost out of time. I served on the board for 2 years, and then I resigned so that my wife, who's here with us tonight, could take a job teaching in our district. She's doing a phenomenal job at that, by the way. And I've said that to everyone, not just because she's here. But I served those 2 years. It was an outstanding 2 years. I learned a lot about myself, a lot about our community, and I'm ready to get back and do that again. So Jason Sandiford, I'm running for Zone 1 and asking for your vote on May 13th.
All right. And Mr. Petty, you have 90 seconds.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Barry Petty. I'm running for Zone 1. Now, I have several names that people can call me. They do call me. Some, of course, my first name, Barrett, even my last name, Petty, and some in the last few years, Dr. Petty. But the name that I love the most is Mr. P. It's because my students gave me that name. I taught, so I have 12 years in K through 12 education, in which 6 of those years I taught at Bob and Betty Courtway Middle School, Carl Stewart Middle School, and Conway Junior High for 6 years teaching 7th grade and 8th grade math. So my background is K-12. I'm running because I feel there should be a sense on the board of somebody not only with a background K-12, but I'm also still and currently certified. And so I want to make sure that our teachers and our staff members are getting everything that they need, that the curriculum is aligning, that we're doing best practices and the things that research has proved to make our kids here in Conway the best kids in the state. Again, my name is Barry Petty. I'm running for Zone 1 School Board. Thank you.
All right, the first question will go to Mr. Petty. The Conway School Board has considered proposing a millage increase, although no change in the millage is sought in this year's election. Under what circumstances or needs do you feel a proposed millage increase would be warranted, and how do you weigh the needs for increased district funding against the prospects of patrons paying higher taxes? You'll have 90 seconds.
Sure. So regarding having an increased millage at this time, I would not be for it, but I'll explain why. First, I would like to see the financial records of the school district back 5 years, 10 years, and compare to how the finances are looking now. And so therefore, I would need that information before considering a millage. However, I will be open to hear patrons and our citizens' opinions on that as well. But definitely, I want to look at the books before I come on board to proposing and being supportive of a millage.
All right, thank you. Mr. Sandiford, you have 2 minutes for the same question.
Great. So I've actually been looking into the finances that we're talking about to try to fully understand what's going on. Our budgets are complex, over $100 million budget. There's a lot of moving parts to it. The majority of that is tied up in staffing and bills that we're committed to, but there's a lot that goes on there, and I want to fully understand that, because when community members come to me and say, what about this millage? I want to be able to have a fully engaged, intelligent conversation to share with them all the facts about it. Now, we had a couple of workshops while I served on the board to talk about what a potential millage might do for us. And I'll tell you what, it's some pretty amazing things that we would see through that. Every aspect of every campus, every group in every campus would be touched somehow or another. For example, the band doesn't have a practice field. Well, we'd orchestrate where we could have a practice field for the band. There are no safe rooms, tornado shelters at the high school. So we would work in tornado shelters at the high school, which may then double for ROTC or something along those lines, and many, many other things as well. One of the things about a millage, the first time I heard Dr. Cullum say that, my question to him was, can we use this millage to increase the pay for our teachers? And he had to look into it, came back and said, we absolutely can. And so I've been advocating for that ever since. Anytime millage is talked about, hey, what about our teachers? How are we going to support them? What are we going to do for them? And so the question about, well, what about increased taxes? No one wants to pay more taxes. I don't either. But if we can get our teachers engaged and say, hey, you're going to pay more taxes, but you're also going to get more money, it may help a little bit to ease that pain. As for the rest of us, our students are important. We're also really low. Well, we're about midway or just below midway ranking with other comparable districts, like where we stand on our millage. So we have some room for that increase. Time is almost up here. But the funds we currently have, I want to fully understand those and make sure that we're using those correctly before we come to the public and say it's time for a millage increase.
All right, Mr. Petty, you have an additional 30 seconds on
Sure.
this question relating to millage.
Sure, thank you. And so I just want the public to know that it's a whole lot easier to have access to the financial records if you're on the school board than if you're not. Of course, you can FOIA and do those things. And also, being on the school board comes with training as well. So I want to fully have that idea of what's going on with the finances before I'll be thumbs up when it comes to a millage.
Thank you, Mr. Petty. This first question will go first to Mr. Sandifer. The Arkansas legislature has tasked the Department of Education with developing a new accountability system for rating of schools. What advice would you give those who are creating the new system about what should or should not be included in a school's accountability assessment and about how schools should be measured?
So, yeah, we currently have a rating system with our schools, A, B, C, D, E, F, and so there's going to likely be some changes with the way that works. In fact, maybe there already is changes with the way that works. But when we're talking about rating our schools, this is so we can compare all schools across the state. We want them on the same playing field when we're talking about that. I'm not sure exactly how I feel about overall grading systems. There's, I think, some faults to those. But to kind of get to the question, what should be included in that when we're grading our schools, obviously reading scores, we have some challenges with reading right now, and I have a bunch of different ideas on why that is and what we need to do moving forward with that. But we want to do all the core subjects. How are our students doing in those? And those are gauged by assessments that the teachers give in the classroom. So what are our kids doing for reading? What are they doing for math? What are they doing, in the STEM programs as they get older? And we want to look at a broad range, a holistic approach to that student and find out what is that student doing and how are they succeeding. And then I think we can use part of that as a gauge to say, okay, well, we have some things we need to do over here, and so we're then going to push that child or those students, we're going to push them a little bit further down that road. So grading systems, they're going to be there, and I think we're going to have to figure out how best to engage that with the state and their requirements as we move on through that process.
Mr. Petty, you have the same question, and you have 2 minutes.
Sure. So I think the State Department needs to talk to the teachers. They need feedback and input from the teachers because the teachers are the people on the front line. They're dealing with students that are hungry. They're dealing with students that are not reading on grade level or can't read at all, but yet tasked with making sure that students excel in academics and on the state tests as well. And so teachers need to be brought in. Things like discipline need to be talked about and how maybe the lack of reading skills increase issues with discipline. And so I think they need to bring teachers to the table. They need to bring principals to the table, those who have frontline experience working with these students. Also, parents. Whether a well-engaged parent because he or she has the flexibility to do so, or even from a parent that can hardly even get to the school because they have 3 jobs trying to take care of their families and their kids. And so I just think the State Department really needs an array of people that these things impact, which are parents and definitely the teachers.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Petty. Please hold your applause. Mr. Sandifer, you have 30 additional seconds.
Sure. So one of the things I learned about the State Department is that as administrations change, processes and programs change. In the schools, it's just something that they deal with. So every 4 years, every 6 years, every 8 years, there's going to be something new that comes in, and the schools have to figure out what that is and how to handle that. And so I would like to see our district get to a place where that's less important, because we have our own processes in place that go above those state requirements, and then we can continue to move forward with engaging our kids and helping them to excel regardless of what changes at the state level.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sandifer. This question will begin with you, Mr. Petty. One provision of the LEARNS Act is third grade students will have to meet a state reading requirement in a new standardized test to move to the fourth grade. How does the school district balance its overall curriculum with these and other standardized tests and with each student's individual needs? You have 90 seconds.
Sure. So that is just to be honest, that's a really difficult task, and I'm afraid that we're going to see many third graders retained in third graders because of our low reading scores, not only here in Conway, but in the state of Arkansas. I think we need to come to the table as a school board, as district administrators and building principals and curriculum specialists, and figure out what really needs to be done, what really works, what's been proven to work, and get that going as well, and also putting in resources. And that's why I'm curious about the finances, because maybe some other portion of money can go towards that, in which teachers not being burdened with trying to help kids get back up to the grade level they need. There could be some other resources there as well. And so, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I am concerned about how many students would be retained in third grade, and it's gonna be a difficult task among all school districts in the state of Arkansas.
Yep. All right, thanks, Mr. Petty. Mr. Sandifer, you have 2 minutes.
Yeah, reading it's an issue. It is across the state. There's many different reasons for that. When it comes to specifically our schools and talking about this third grade testing, what are we going to do to get these kids at the level they need to be at so we can move them along? Because if we don't do that, it's a disservice to them. And this is about the kids first. So I know one of the things we have in place right now is what's called win time. It's a time where we can go in and give the students what they need. And so students who have that particular need in reading that are below that level, we can go all in on that. That's a process we already have in place. And so how do we further define that process to help these students so that they can pass this assessment that's going to be happening? Teacher input is important. You know, let's get the teachers in there. Hey, teachers, what are we going to do about this? How are we going to get these kids up to the reading standards that they need to be at, up to that reading level? And so that's one of the things that I want to see more of overall, is I want to see teacher input groups. I want them to come to the table more. I've heard a lot of teachers complain about that. Hey, we have ideas and we're having challenges with people listening to us. And so I want that to happen. And then the other thing I see on this is a reading specialist. So we just hired a reading specialist. I'd like to see that turn into a team of reading specialists. I think that would be great district-wide. These reading specialists, they're going to have a tough job. They're going to have to come in and help develop plans on how we're going to get these students where they need to be. So it's multi-pronged. It's not just one thing, but we're going to have to put it all together, because 100% about the kids, and we're going to do what we can do, everything we can do to get these kids where they need to be.
Thank you, Mr. Sandifer. Mr. Petty, you have 30 additional seconds.
Sure. So I still have my teacher friends. They still work for the district, and we talk a lot, and I know a lot of things going on in the building. And so one thing, tying back to this question, especially about accountability, such programs as Win Time and other things, are they being actually done with fidelity? Are they actually being done, producing the results that and the goals in which district administration, building administration as well have proposed? So that is a big concern. As a school board member, I am going to be looking into the fidelity and the results of programs instituted within our schools.
Thank you. Next question, beginning with you, Mr. Sandifer. The Trump administration has announced its intent to eliminate the U.S. Department of Education. If this were to happen, what do you see as the positive and negative effects of the department closing, and what would be the effects, if any, on the Conway School District?
Sure.
You have 90 seconds.
Sure. So if the government's going to do what the government's going to do, and we don't have any control over that here in Conway, Arkansas, but how are we going to react to it? What are we going to do as a district? My most recent understanding, if the Department of Education does close down, the funding, which is most of what they're responsible for, is supposed to stay in place, maybe transfer to a different department. But I want us to be at a place where even if that funding goes away, that we're prepared for it. Maybe we have a little bit of time right now to prepare for that, get ourselves ready to go, so that if that funding goes, we're still going to be on track for what we need to be on track for. Are there benefits to it? I don't know really how much that department has a direct impact on us, aside from that funding. The department itself, it's probably bloated, like most government offices are. So if we could rein that back in, but make sure the important parts stay, the funding, taking care of our kids, that's absolutely what it's about. And so I'd want us just to keep following that path and making Conway the best we can be, regardless of what the federal government decides to do.
Thank you. Mr. Petty, you have the same question. You have 2 minutes.
Sure. So, do I have 2 minutes or a minute and a half?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay. Thank you. So, to be honest, I'll be concerned with that being closed, and I'll tell you the number one reason why, as far as the Federal Department of Education, is how would that affect the services and the management of students with disabilities, those services that are given to students with disabilities. That would be my major concern. And I'm just going to be honest, there's already existing issues with students with disabilities in the school district already and how they're being treated. And I know that because I've been the advocate for some of those families. And so I know for sure that's headed by the federal law, not state law. And so I would be concerned with that accountability being removed if that would have happened. But however, though, doing the right thing is not a state level, it's not a federal level, it's not a local level, it's just the right thing to do. And so hopefully in-house, there will be things created and structures and systems of accountability to make sure that the services with students with disabilities are being done and being done with fidelity.
Thank you. Mr. Sandifer, you have an additional 30 seconds.
Sure. So kind of related to that, the federal government today made another step, and they're going to be cutting some additional funding from the states. And so that also becomes a concern. And some of the funds from that are involved in what's called an ESSA program. And we have some positions that are paid through that. And so how is that going to affect us directly? How are we going to pivot from that and make sure that we can continue on the path we are, despite what the federal government is going to do?
Thank you. Our next question, I'll begin with you, Mr. Petty, staying with our positive and negative theme. What do you believe has been the impact, both positive and negative, of the LEARNS Act on the Conway School District and on Arkansas? And what do you think the impact will be in 10 years?
Sure. So I know one positive impact, from my opinion, I'm only one person, is the increased attention on reading. I will say that the LEARN Act have made reading a priority because it really needs to be a priority because it is. However, I am concerned as far as with the funding that Arkansas LEARNS Act give to students, whether they're homeschooled or they go to private schools, but yet those private schools and homeschools do not have the higher level of accountability as a public school and a public charter school. And so, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I take issue with that. However, with everything in life, some things you can't control and you have to try to work around it. But yeah, the decreased funding in our school district, because more people are being homeschooled or going to private school, that means the curriculum specialists that we need, we may not can hire. That means that very great teacher we want to hire, or an extra additional teacher in the classroom, we may not be able to do because of the cut in the funding. And so that is my concern. That's my concern, that's my positive and my negative view of those.
All right, Mr. Sandifer, you have the same question. You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, so I think one of the most positive things, one of the things that I said while serving on the board, I'd say it all the time, any decision we're going to make, we have to look out, we have to say, is this going to make Conway the best district in the state? I want Conway to be the place where if a family is going to move to Arkansas, they're going to be like, I can get a good job there, it's a safe community there, I can build a family there, and my kids are going to get the best education in the state, and I want them to move to Conway for that. So that said, I think the LEARNS Act gives us an opportunity to become more competitive. It has our administration put their heads together, the board, the teachers put their heads together and say, what are we going to do to be the most competitive? We're losing some kids right now, mostly to homeschool, some to private schools, those kinds of things. What are we going to do where those vouchers don't matter anymore because the kids are like, I want to go to Conway. The parents say, you're going to go to Conway because it's going to be the absolute best place for you. And so I think we have some ideas for that. I kind of touched on that earlier. Whenever we do some of the things with our facilities, that's going to be a draw. People like facilities. They like to have programs that meet their needs. And so we're going to hopefully be able to do things like that. We've talked about an online academy. I don't really have time to talk much about that, but I think there's a huge draw for that, and I think that could be a really good thing for our district. And so that's a brief part of what I think is positive about it. The negative part is, the vouchers. We're losing kids from it, and so that's happening right now. It's kind of shaken out. We're seeing what that's doing, and so we can do something about that. We can have additional legislation to help change that. Who's gonna lead that charge? I don't know yet. I haven't heard that anyone is, but hopefully, because this is just kind of shaken out and we're understanding what it's doing, we can make some changes for that to hold those other institutions up to the same super high, rigorous standards that the state holds us to as public schools, private schools, home schools, the others. They need to be held to those same standards.
Thank you. Mr. Petty, you have 30 additional seconds.
Sure. With decreased funding, you're going to automatically have decreased level quality in services. And so it seems like what's going to happen is that it will perpetuate in which private schools and home schools student population are increasing, but yet the money that's going to them would decrease in our budget. And so we're going to see the effects of that, and there's no way to avoid it. And I'm sad to see that as well.
All right, thank you. So our next question will begin with you, Mr. Sandifer. Because students have increased opportunities to transfer to a different school district or to private schools, have we entered a time where public schools must recruit? And if so, what's the good and bad aspects to this, and how should the Conway School District approach recruitment?
It's kind of like we have a transfer portal going like they do in college football. It's kind of what it feels like sometimes. We kind of are recruiting. I don't know if you've seen, we have a couple of billboards around town, which I think they're really cool. And that would say to the community, hey, Conway, that's the place that I want to be. Social media advertisements and other things like that. We kind of are recruiting. I don't think it should be a direct recruitment where the superintendent or some of his cabinet members give a student a call and be like, hey, you're really great. Your academics are awesome. Why don't you come join us, and be on our quiz bowl so we can go win the state championship. I don't know that it should be at a level like that. But I think the best way we do recruitment is what I was talking about a moment ago, where we look at us through the lens of how do we be the most competitive that we can be, and what are those things that we're doing where people look at us and they're like, that's where I want to be. That's the culture I want to be involved in. That's where I want my kids. And I think that's the kind of recruitment that we need to do for our students in our schools.
Mr. Petty, same question. You have 2 minutes.
Sure. So the recruitment efforts of a Division I school looks totally different than the recruitment of a Division III college or university. You know why? Less money. And so I don't really know how we'll have the resources to recruit, because recruitment takes money. And if you have decreased funding, then the person who would usually do that may have to go into a classroom, may have to become a principal, may have to do some other thing on the ground because of the lack of funding. And so, just to be honest, how can you have effective recruitment when there's the funding is decreasing? And so you having to make what priorities? Kids learning or recruiting? And it's really just it can become a hamster in the wheels type of situation. Of course, you want to make the best of everything, but how can you have great recruitment with decreased funding?
All right, thank you. Mr. Sandifer, you have another 30 seconds.
So kind of separate, but we do teacher recruiting. We've built a pretty good program in our schools where we have a whole department that takes care of that. And they go around to the different colleges and different places, different job fairs, and they recruit teachers. They've done a really good job at that. In fact, I heard at this most recent, or for this school year, we were back up to about an average of 30 candidates per position, which is what it was pre-COVID. So teachers want to be here. And I believe if teachers want to be here, we're going to start seeing that students want to be here as well.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Petty, you will get this question first, and you'll have 90 seconds. The Arkansas legislature passed the bill outlining in detail ways that public school students and employees may engage in religious activities, including prayer, religious text, and religious observances. It also passed a bill requiring the posting of the 10 Commandments in all public school classrooms, although similar legislation in Louisiana was struck down by a federal judge, a ruling that's under appeal. What importance and role, if any, do religious activities, texts, and displays have in public schools? You have 90 seconds.
Well, this will be a quick response. Just to be honest, I'm a man of faith. I go to church every Sunday. I'm a member of New Hope Baptist Church locally here in Conway, but I think there should be a strong sense of separation of church and state. However, we can't, it's a law now. It's something that we have to deal with. And so we just try to follow the law the best that we can. And so I'm the type of person, I don't ponder on things that I can't change. I ponder on things that I can make and have influence and make an impact on. And so I definitely believe in separation of church and state as a Christian. However, those religious themes and Ten Commandments will be in classrooms soon.
All right, thank you. Mr. Sandifer, you have 2 minutes.
Well, I think all of our kids and all of us need a little Jesus, so that's my first thought on that. But yeah, I'm a man of faith. I'm a Christian guy as well. But listen, not everybody believes that, and I understand that, and that's completely okay. All right, so in our schools, if we're going to say, hey, we need the 10 Commandments, then we need to be accepting towards other faiths as well. And so my overall belief on that is I'd rather keep that over here in church on Sunday, whatever, and we focus on education. So we've got reading issues in our schools. And so we're going to spend this time talking about what are we going to do about the 10 Commandments. I'm for the 10 Commandments, but we're going to put those in our school and really focus our time and effort on that. I don't really think that we should be doing that. I think we need to focus on education and the core things that matter.
Thank you. Mr. Petty, you have another 30 seconds.
Sure, and I think, again, to a previous response and a previous question, that it should be more focused on making sure that what's going on in our schools are being done with fidelity and they're actually being done in the right way. For instance, during wind time, are kids doing their remediation work, or they're texting on their phone, or they're playing on their phone? Because remember, I have a lot of teacher friends still in the district, and they're frustrated because the things that should be done are not being done. And so I'm more looking into the fidelity of our current programs than the religious themes.
Thank you. All right, that ends our time that we have for questions in this particular race. And so now each candidate will have a 1-minute closing statement. Mr. Petty, you will go first.
Sure. Thank you all for coming out and giving us this opportunity. Again, I'm Barry Petty. My background is K-12. I'm still certified as a K-12 educator. And so with that knowledge, that means that I'm keeping up with the trends through yearly professional development and knowing what's going on. I think our teachers, our staff, our support needs someone who has that knowledge to come in and to support them, to look at the things that are going on, whether to pat them on the back and to say, hey, these things are going well, or to come in and say, hey, what do you think, how we can change this for your performance and for the performance of the kids? This is all about the kids, right? It's all about making the kids better to become better adults. I've had former students in the medical field that had to do certain things when I was in the hospital or whatever, and I want to make sure they know what to do. And as a school board member, I'm putting kids first and their education first so that they can excel and Conway can continue to grow and thrive in Arkansas.
Thank you. And Mr. Sandifer, you have 1 minute.
Sure. So I told you previously I served for 2 years and then I took a year off. And that year off that I had really gave me a renewed perspective on what's going on in our district. And it takes a long time to really get in. I've served on multiple boards. This one is it's a little bit different. It's like you're drinking from a fire hose, but in all directions. It never stops. And so it takes a while to fully understand and grasp that. So I'm ready to get back in and roll my sleeves up and focus on these efforts that we've talked about, focus on our children, focus on our community, building bridges with our community. Listen, there's room for everyone at the table. So if you have ideas, you want to give input, absolutely. I'll give you my personal cell phone number. Come talk to me. Let's go have coffee together. Let's talk about these things. I'm ready to get back in. I've got a passion for our district, for advocating for public schools, and I'm very excited to be able to do that again. So I'm asking for your vote on May 13th for school board position Zone 1. Thank you.
All right, please give our candidates a hand. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. I know I'll ask our candidates for the at-large position on the school board, Leo Cummings III, Tammy Marsh, and Tyler Moses, to come forward. And you may give them a hand as they come forward. Thank you, candidates, for being here. A little bit of housekeeping. The format on this one, it's going to be a little bit different, a little bit simpler than the last one. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to make an opening statement, and then we will begin the question and answer, and each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer. And the candidates do not have a second opportunity as they did in the previous forum. And then at the end, I'm on the wrong page. At the end, they will have 1 minute for a closing statement. And again, the order of opening closing statements and the order in which they will receive questions all determined by random draw before we started. And so now we will begin with the first 90-second opening statement, and then it will be, well, first, let me introduce our candidates. We have Tammy Marsh to my left, and Tyler Moses to my immediate right, and Leo Cummins III to my far right. And Mrs. Marsh, you will have the first opening statement. You have 90 seconds.
I want to first say thank you for coming. It is critical that we get the vote out for this, what seems like a minor election, but for our community and for our town and for our children, it is crucial that we get people to exercise their right to vote. I'm the product of not only Conway Public Schools, K through 12, I'm the product of this town. I was born and raised here. My children were raised here. My children are 24 and 28, both boys, and they graduated from Conway High. I taught for 21 years in 3 different districts, Conway School District, private school, and then in a school district in Little Rock and Pulaski County. As a result of that experience, I have seen how 3 completely different school districts work and operate. I've seen the benefits of both, of all 3, and I've seen the negative of all 3. I come with that kind of experience to the board. I do not have a problem speaking what is the difficult thing to say. I want people to feel that they can come up to me in the grocery store, wherever they may be. If they've got a concern, I want them to reach out to me. I've had, during this campaign, multiple people reach out to me through Facebook, and they don't know me, but they want to sit down and meet with me. And I have sat down and met with them. I think that it's crucial that we are informed and educated about this election.
Thank you. Mr. Moses, you have 90 seconds for an opening statement.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tyler Moses. I'm a dad with a son at Ida Burns. I'm an active member of PTO and write the school's newsletter as well. My career has been in financial risk management, managing budgets that are massive, billions of dollars as a financial bank examiner for the U.S. Department of Treasury. I have spent a lot of time looking at Conway School District's budget line item by line item, asking questions to not only current board members, but teachers and members of the community, and not just doing elevator analysis. This number went up, this number went down. But what does that mean, and how are we preparing for the future? And so that's what sort of separates me in this specific race, is my specificity to the budget and paying attention to the budget so that we can make good decisions that are impacting our students tomorrow, not only, but next year and the year after. Right now, the board is not doing that. That's what my entire career is in, asking questions and making decisions based on numbers.
Thank you, Mr. Moses. Mr. Cummings, you have 90 seconds.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you guys for being here. I think we can't underscore how important this election is. The backdrop of the election is we're in Conway, a beautiful city, fastest growing city in the state for the last couple of years. So we need the Conway Public Schools to be continuing on that tradition and keeping up as the city continues to move and grow. I'm born and raised here. I went to Ida Burns a few years ago, graduated from Conway High School in 1998 and went to UCA to pursue public relations. I have 2 kids in Conway Public Schools, 2nd and 3rd grade, 2 amazingly smart and girls with a little bit of attitude as well. That's not for me that they get that. So I see firsthand what's going on in the schools, right? I get the Atlas test scores. I get to go to the Valentine's Day stuff, and I go on field trips, and I see issues that teachers are having. Like Tammy was saying, so many people have talked to me in the last 7 or 8 weeks telling me the good stuff, the bad stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on, right? And it's not just one thing. We're going to be juggling, thank you. We're going to have to chew gum and walk at the same time, if you will, right? It's going to take us addressing the literacy issue. It's going to take us addressing the special needs. It's going to take us addressing the graduation rate. All of that has got to be tackled. So a vote for me on this coming election will help to do all those things.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings. Now we're going to the questions. And Mr. Cummings, you will get the first question. The Conway School District has a track record of paying its teachers above the state average, but because of the LEARNS Act, the minimum pay for teachers has been raised to $50,000. And the district's advantage in this area has been reduced. What must the district do to continue to attract and hire quality teachers?
I think a lot of this starts with the classroom, right? So if we're going to continue to attract teachers, we got to have attractive things for teachers. Part of that's the amenities, right? But also the quality of kid that is being produced, right? So I would say to attract the teachers that we need, Conway itself has to continue to grow. So outside of the school district, Conway's got to continue to do what it does, right? So outside of school, you want to come to a place that's fun, safe, has activities, has good growing community. But also we've got to figure out a way to keep the teachers here. Part of the issues that we're having right now is we're losing incredibly talented teachers who've been there for 15, 25, 30 years that we are losing to some just leaving school altogether, and then some going to neighboring schools, going to Cabot, going to Russellville, going to Greenbrier. So the initial thing is going to be continuing to do what we do as a city and making sure that our kids are growing up in a manner that they are flexing the skills that they are learning at Conway Public Schools to keep the teachers here.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings. Mr. Moses, you have the question next.
Teacher retention is incredibly important. The LEARNS Act has shaken up our education system in Arkansas, and we have to be able to prepare for that and adjust accordingly. The fact is, Bryant and Cabot have comparable budgets, yet they spend less per student than Conway does. Conway spends more, but much less of our budget actually gets to the classroom because we're spending so much on central office staff and administration. We have to look at the numbers and put the funds where they need to be in classrooms. If teachers are supported, if they have the resources that they need, they want to come to work. When teachers are spread thin and aren't getting the support because we have a central office with 16 staff making an average salary of $125,000, what does that leave the teachers to do? Just figure it out? And that's where we are now. We have to adjust that and get the balance back to where it needs to be so that our teachers are supported and want to stay at the district.
Thank you. Ms. Marsh, you have 90 seconds.
Okay. First of all, why is it important that our teachers are supported? It's because, as Mr. Petty said earlier, they are the ones day in and day out that are in the trenches, that are doing the hard work. They are the ones that are actually educating our children. I know what that's like. I left education because I did not have administrative support. I was out there day in, day out working to follow the rules and train my kids and educate them and get them where they could read beyond reading level in nonfiction. That's going to be an issue that I'm going to address in a minute. But we have to have administrative support for our teachers. We have to have community support for our teachers. One of the things that I loved being involved in was the Conway Public School Foundation, and teachers who did not have the funds to be able to pay for some extra enrichment for their children would apply for grants. That was one of my favorite things to be able to do, was to be able to award grants to them where they could further enrich and support our children. We have to give them the support they need. That's why they're leaving. As Mr. Cummings was saying, we're losing teachers at an alarming rate.
Thank you. Next question, I'll begin with you, Mr. Moses. Conway School Board withdrew from its agenda in March a proposal to apply for a district conversion charter for Conway High School and Junior High, which would allow the school to offer virtual and blended instruction. Would you support the school district proceeding with this idea, and what do you see as the advantages and disadvantages of a conversion charter? You have 90 seconds.
Again, I think this conversation is a result of the LEARNS Act, which is law, and we have to learn how to cohabitate with the LEARNS Act. Ultimately, the way that it was handled was completely inappropriate. That's why I requested permission to speak with the board. Luckily, I was one of the people that got permission to speak with the board and told them why it's so important to communicate efficiently, early, and proactively instead of reacting. Because ultimately, when we didn't do that, we missed the application. Now we're behind schedule. We're wasting time. We're wasting efficiency. And had we answered questions from parents, from educators in December, we could have navigated that then. But instead, we weren't aware until there was an article that came out in the log cabin. That's when most of the community found out the weekend before the application letter or notification of application was sent to the state. There's no reason that that should not have been communicated to parents and community stakeholders 3 months prior when it was discussed. And I'm not saying that that's an intent to hide or keep information, but it is the difference between leadership that proactively thinks and leadership that only reacts when the community is upset. They should know better.
Thank you. Ms. Marsh, same question.
Okay. First of all, I believe that Dr. Cullum and the board handled that appropriately when they pulled it, because the community became very outspoken about, we don't know what this is, we don't have enough information. I do believe that communication and being transparent is very important. As Mr. Moses said, we've got to involve our stakeholders. If our stakeholders are involved, they can go back to their different pockets in the community and help inform our patrons and our parents and our citizens. I do believe that the charter option offers us different options for our children. Not all of our children learn the same way. They're as different as every child sitting in every different seat. And I think this will give us the opportunity to provide them with options that we do not have right now.
Thank you. Mr. Cummings, you have the same question. You have 90 seconds.
Thank you. I think the way it was handled initially was a complete lack of understanding for how this community works, if I'm being honest. Conway is one of the most supportive, encouraging communities out there, and I think that's being an example of all the folks who are here today. If we felt like we had some buy-in and some knowledge on the front end, because I truly believe that that would have been a good thing, and I'll get to that in a second, we would have been able to do that, right? And if I understand correctly, this would have been step one of like 15 or 16 steps. So I think it would have taken early 2027 to actually have this thing done. Now, as Tyler was saying, we were behind the 8 ball on that. So on the front end, the communication could have been a lot better, got some community buy-in, even informed the teachers, because I think the teachers found out when most of us found out. And that's problematic, okay? I've recently spoken to a couple folks who think that it's great. To what they were saying, some students need a different environment to learn, and this opens it up to something out of the regular classroom setting, which is something that a lot of students need to excel. Not to mention the things that it offers for specialized training, stuff that you can also do with one of these schools. So I think it's a great thing, and I think it's something that we need, and now we're a lot further behind the 8 ball than we should have been from the onset.
Thank you. Next question will begin with Ms. Marsh, and this does kind of follow up on this. When the conversion charter appeared on the school board's agenda, and as Mr. Moses pointed out, concerns were raised about the district's transparency and communication methods with patrons. Do you believe the school district and the school board have done a good job in communicating and in being transparent, and how do you believe these areas could be improved? You have 90 seconds.
Are you talking in regard just to the charter or in general?
In general.
Okay. I believe we all make mistakes. Every single one of us in here makes mistakes. The key is, do we learn from the mistakes that we make? And do we monitor and adjust? In the classroom, you learn constantly, day in and day out, to monitor and adjust. That's what you have to do in probably every job that all of you out there have. We have situations where we make a mistake, we learn from it, and we have to go forward. I believe that the way the charter situation was handled, the board and administration learned, I've got to involve the community more. And I think that going forward, we're going to see that better. And that's one thing that I want to bring to the board, is we've got to involve the community and the stakeholders.
Thank you. Mr. Cummings, you have the same question.
Thank you. I don't think it's been great. And when I say that, I mean that as a community stakeholder. I mean that as a parent and as someone who's been talking to a number of teachers and educators over the last 7 or 8 weeks. The charter thing was just the most recent example of that. And yes, I hope that a lesson was learned there. Again, I think that this community is forgiving. This community is engaged. This community wants to be engaged. Their feedback, our feedback, is integral in any decision to a degree that the board should make, especially something like the charter school. When Ms. misconstrued, as a lot of people were, they were left to their own devices without proper communication. So no, I think there's a lot of room for opportunity to grow in regards to how the board has been communicating with the community. When we were supposed to get bad rain a few days or a few weeks ago, I got a text message saying the school was closing at 1 o'clock. That's a really good way to communicate. I don't know that anything has been done in that manner. I'm not sure all the methods that are being used, but just like when you're targeting students, everyone learns a little bit differently. People get their communication in different ways. So I think a good start is figuring out different ways to get to people. It's got to be Facebook. It's got to be emails. It's got to be push stuff to the phone. There's a lot of different methods out there of communication, and I think that's what the board needs to do.
Thank you. Mr. Moses, same question.
I want to recognize and appreciate the board's response by removing the item from the agenda. It was completely appropriate given how the community responded. I agree that there are aspects to the application process that could benefit students in our district. But again, our board has to move towards a proactive way of communicating instead of reactive. When I spoke with the board, I tried to share that. Listen, we want to support you. Our students are going to school here, and we appreciate the work that you're doing to the district. We can do that by just involving us earlier, asking us if we have questions, proactively communicating with us. And I said, hey, there's parents across the state of Arkansas that feel like they're locked out of boardrooms where decisions are being made. And this is why this law is in the Senate being discussed right now. The board heard that and responded with, well, that wasn't about us. But what I said completely went over their head. We want to be involved. We want to be stakeholders in our children's educations, and we want to work with the board. And the board can do that if they will move away from defensiveness and instead listen to hear instead of listening to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Moses. Next question, I'll begin with you, Mr. Cummins. As part of the Access Act the Arkansas legislature passed this year, public school students cannot receive an excused absence to participate in a political protest. However, they may be excused to advocate for social or public policy or to attempt to influence legislation. Should students be allowed to protest during the school day, and how do you differentiate between political protest and policy advocacy?
That's a tough question, sir. Do I think they should be able to do that during the school day? I don't. I think there are lots of adults that are willing and able to do that, and if they want to do something after school, love it, go for it. I think learning to root for things and to oppose things is part of the culture that we have here. I think that's a very good thing. But do I think that that's something that kids should be checked out of school for, taken out of school for? No, I don't. I think that we've got issues in reading across the board, right? I think that there are a lot of things, a lot of time that our students could be doing in the schools with our teachers. I'm sure you've seen this, but Conway is listed as number 37 in the U.S. News list of schools in the state, okay, not in the country, in the state. I'd like to see those numbers changed, right? So to answer your initial question, I think we can spend a lot more time in the classroom than checking out to go protest.
All right, thank you. Ms. Marsh, you have the same question in 90 seconds.
As Mr. Cummins was answering his question, I wrote down students need to be in school. He's exactly right. Our scores show that they need to be in school and they need to be learning. Are there benefits to being civically involved and doing things like that? Yes, but I don't think that it should happen during the school day as well.
All right, thank you. Mr. Moses, 90 seconds.
Yeah, so there's not a lot we can do when a law is passed. It's our job as a school board to make sure that we are in compliance with law. My degree is in financial risk management and preparing for risk. And so what that means is we need to be aware of the law now and talking about that now, engaging stakeholders, engaging parents. The fact is when students leave the school, our ability to keep them safe and make sure that there's no harm that comes to them erodes quickly. And so, yes, students should have First Amendment rights, but they're in school to learn. And so we need to be having that conversation, not with the board behind a closed door, but with our community now so that we can build policies, have those conversations with parents, and navigate those conversations instead of 2 months from now when we're getting some sort of letter from an attorney for being out of compliance. And that is the difference in being proactive versus reactive. And so yes, I do think that students should stay at school. That's what they're there to learn. And when they leave, we can't keep them safe. But we need to be navigating those conversations now and not a year from now.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Moses. Next question, and Mr. Moses, I'll begin with you. How would you rate the safety of Conway schools? And how would you advocate to protect everyone on campus, both from threats coming from outside the school and in situations arising between students, teachers, or staff inside buildings? You have 90 seconds.
My son is at Ida Burns, and I honestly feel completely safe with him there. I know that he takes medication in the morning, and if he forgets and I have to run to the school real quick, I have to press a bell and get buzzed in. I show my ID, I get a sticker before I can get to the nurse. And so I'm confident in our schools and what they're doing to keep our students safe. We have school resource officers. I've been involved at city council meetings asking questions of the school resource officers to make sure that they're there to protect our students and not to discipline our students. I want to make sure that the discipline is taking place in the school or with parents involved and not police officers. And I just want to make sure that that's not what's happening. I'm not implying that. But I do trust our district to keep our students safe. Again, when we're talking about keeping them safe in classrooms, that's where we're talking about where's the funding going. If we're having to have conversations about what contracts can we enter to save money on our electricity, which is taking place, then what conversations are taking place about how are we making sure that staff is on hand to guarantee that if a student with a discipline issue is having some sort of issue, that the nearby students are safe. And so that's where we need to be going, and that's what we need to be looking for to make sure that funding is available to continue making sure our students stay safe.
Thank you. Mr. Cummings, you have the same question.
My kids go to Ellen Smith, second and third grade, and I don't ever recall them feeling unsafe. And I get to go to school a lot to talk to the kids, and as I mentioned, parties and whatnot. I don't feel like there's a culture of fear or anything along those lines. I see the school resource officer every time I drop them off. I see them in the morning. His presence is known there. My biggest concern in regards to safety is actually students and teachers at this point. The discipline issue is something that we've got to look at, right? I think that there's a resource officer at every school. Part of the concern outside of that is the disciplinary problems, right? What are we doing with these kids that start off interrupting the class, and if that escalates to violence, what happens then, right? And I think you know this. As I mentioned, I have two girls. One of them has a student in her class, great little boy, but he has got a discipline problem. And oftentimes that discipline problem could land him in the office, but more often than not, it's disrupting the whole class. You got 26 kids in there. One of those kids needs attention. Now the teacher is focused on, thank you, now the teacher is focused on that instead of the other kids. And right now, what I think they're doing is that kid's going to the office for part of the day. That's not helping anything, right? We've got to figure out a way to reach those kids that are having those issues. One, figure out where they're coming from, and two, figure out a way to keep those kids in school, because then being out of school is a worse scenario that we could even talk about.
All right. Thank you. And Ms. Marsh, same question, 90 seconds.
Thank you. Several years ago, I called Dr. Cullum, and I had a safety program. It was a structural system that could be implemented into the building as the building is currently in its environment or its structure right now. It wasn't like tearing things down and remodeling. And so when I called Dr. Cullum, he was very receptive, and he set up a meeting, and I brought in the company that could provide this. I was making no money on this. I thought it was a great program because I've been in the classroom. I was in a classroom when the school was on lockdown for 2.5 hours while they tried to find a loaded gun on campus. So I know the fear of being in that classroom, and you've got 29 kids in there, and you're worried about, have they found this weapon that's on campus? So Dr. Cullum and Mr. Black were very receptive. We came in, the presentation was made, they took all the notes, they reached back out, checking into it. Those kinds of systems are very costly, and you have to weigh your measures of, is this worth it, or do we need to try something else? But we're talking about our kids. Our kids are worth that measure that we would have to go to, that extra mile.
Thank you, Ms. Marsh. Our next question will begin with you, Ms. Marsh. What is one specific reason you're running for school board, and what specific goals do you have as a school board member, and how will you accomplish them?
I was hoping I'd get a question like that. Running for the school board has been a dream of mine since my very first year that I taught. My first job was at the junior high. And I thought, one day, I want to be on the school board like Carolyn Lewis is, or like Dr. Fiddler, the dentist. He was on the school board for a long time. And I thought, I want to be able to do that. Well, you can't do that and be a teacher. So when I left education and I went into real estate, I decided when the opportunity presents itself, that's something that I want to do. I have shown myself as a leader in a school environment. I have been a department chair, I've been a curriculum coordinator, I have been an AP coordinator. I've done those kinds of leadership things in a school where I spent 21 years experience in that profession. That's a given for 21 years experience. But I have also been a proven leader in the real estate industry, and I've only been in that industry for 8 years. I've been the leader, the president of the Faulkner County Leadership. I serve on state levels as chairperson for committees. I'm not afraid to lead. I'm not afraid to speak out. My goal coming to the board is to help bring our community together where we can work together with our stakeholders and with our parents and achieve great things for our community.
Thank you, Ms. Marsh. Mr. Moses, 90 seconds, same question.
I have a history of service and have shown that I enjoy being part of our community. I serve as secretary of the Conway Tree Board. I'm very active in PTO. Like I said, I write the newsletter for the entire Ida Burns Elementary School that goes to all parents. I enjoy being involved, and I enjoy interacting with all of the teachers at Ida Burns and knowing what's happening in my child's education. When that takes place, you see things that you want to improve. For instance, Caden goes to Boys and Girls Club after school, not because we needed childcare, but because we felt that a social aspect had been lost during the COVID years, and so we wanted to improve on that. When you're involved in your child's education and you can see how you can interact and improve that, you naturally want to do that. Because of my background in finance, that's when I started looking at the budget and have concerns. The fact is, our administrative spending has ballooned in the past 3 years. At the same time, we've increased classroom spending by $100 in 3 years. And so when you're looking at these numbers and asking questions and thinking, Ms. Church says that she needs help, the counselor needs help, but why are we having an administration that is ballooning and paying an exorbitant amount while our teachers in classrooms are not being supported?
Thank you, Mr. Cummings. Same question, 90 seconds.
Thank you. I was recently asked what my top 2 priorities were like in life, not just for this. And my answer was my family and my community. So why I'm running for school board, because it is a beautiful combination of those 2 things. I love this community. I've been here my entire life. I work for the Chamber of Commerce, so I'm literally getting to have conversations with people about this community every day. The Chamber represents 1,400 businesses, which is a whole lot of folks, right? So part of the reason I want to do this, because the school district, we are raising the next generation, right? Like right now in the school is the person who's going to treat you when you're a patient, the person who's going to build your house. It's going to be the person who's going to check you out at Chick-fil-A, right? We are raising up this generation who's going to be the ones to ultimately take care of us to some degree, which brings me to my children. They are my why, okay? And if I can help impact them and it also impacts the rest of the city in a positive way, boom, I am here for it, okay? As I mentioned, Conway is the fastest growing city in the state. Conway is killing it right now, and an attractive public school system makes all the difference. When you're looking at individuals, families, businesses that are looking for places, fastest growing city, like that's huge, okay? So having a school that is also successful, who has great literacy rates, that is getting national merit scholarships. Everyone is looking at that stuff, right? So the school, Conway Public School, can't be the reason someone chooses to not come here, right? Or even worse, move to Conway and then go to school in Greenbrier, which is not knocking Greenbrier, but that's a thing that's happening right now.
Right, thank you, and that's all the time that we have for our questions, and so now we'll have the move to the closing statements. And like I said, this is all determined by a random draw, and Mr. Cummings will go first. You have 1 minute.
Thank you, sir. As I mentioned, I've been working for the Chamber of Commerce for the last 9 years, but I feel like I've been representing Conway long before that, and I'm ready to make that turn and represent Conway in a new way. I love this school. I was brought up there. It means a lot to me. This community means a lot to me. I love looking out into the room and seeing all these faces, some cases that I've known for 30 years. That feels weird saying that, but that's the case. We have got an opportunity to be great, and we once were, if I'm being honest, and I want to see it restored to that. I want Conway to be the school of choice, not just for Conwegians, but for folks who are looking at Conway because they might be coming here to work for West Rock, or the Fortune 100 place that's coming to put a $1 billion data center here. We are attracting folks a lot, and having a public school system that is amongst the top in the state is just another great reason for folks to come here. So when you go to the ballots, early voting on May 6th, the name at the top, Leo Cummings III, is who you should push your button for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings. Mr. Moses, you're next. You have 1 minute.
We have a really great district with really strong staff in our schools. That's not a question. All of us up here agree that our district is strong, and we all have different ideas of how we can make it better. My separation is my acumen and background in finance. Ultimately, whatever great idea you have can't be implemented if the check doesn't clear. And so when we're talking about problems today, we need to not only be talking about that, but also be realistic that we, because of LEARNs, need to be preparing for 3 years from now, 4 years from now. And I think that we can continue improving our district, continue supporting our students, make improvements to communication and transparency with our community so that Conway feels like they're part of the district. And ultimately, who's benefiting is our kids. And so we all have great ideas. My background specifically differentiates me, so I would appreciate your support on May the 13th.
Thank you. And Ms. Marsh, 1 minute.
I hate to give false information. I have to correct something I said a little bit ago. I said I was curriculum coordinator. I was on the curriculum committee. Please don't go out and take that and say she falsified a statement. So Conway is a great town. It is the best town. That's why I have chosen to stay here and to invest my time and money and energy in this town. Our schools are really good, but I want them to be great. I want to take my experience in the classroom and my leadership experience to the board. I want to be approachable to the members of the community where you can come up to me and talk to me about what is on your mind, that you feel comfortable doing that you feel comfortable that if it's confidential, I'm not going to divulge your confidence and break that. I love this place, and I love kids, and I want to give of my time and energy at this stage in my life to make things better.
Thank you, and that's all the time that we have, so please give our candidates a hand. And now I'll turn it back over to Pastor Marvia.
Can we give our moderator a hand? If you guys give us just a second, we're going to dismiss together. First of all, I want to thank our school board members that are here tonight. I saw our president, Dr. Naylor, Ms. Franklin. I saw Mr. Ackland here. Let's give them a hand for being here, being a part of the process. Second of all, our event was sponsored by 3 individual groups. The Log Cabin, we thank them. We want to thank Brett Carroll and Conway Corporation. But I also want to thank the pastors of the Central Arkansas Minister Alliance. Pastors, will you all stand so they'll know who you are? All the pastors that are here. Let's give these pastors a hand. Thank you, pastors. You may be seated. I saw Pastor Harris just stepped outside the door. I was told to remind everyone that on election day, there are 3 polling sites, the McGee Center, the library, and here at True Holiness Saints Center in this building. Polls open at 7:30 a.m. and will close at 7:30 p.m. Early voting is May the 6th through the 9th, and May 12th. All of that will be at the county clerk's office from 8 a.m. to 4:30. If you don't know what zone you're in, to my right and your left is a map up here, and you can see what zone you're in and who you're voting for. Now, the last thing I'm going to ask you to do before you run out the door is to stop by these tables and get some of the goodies, because they work really hard for that. But more importantly, I'm going to challenge those of you that are here to meet somebody that you didn't come in with, and find out who they are. And I think you'll find out that there are a lot of special people that really love Conway. Pastor Garner, would you come and just pray our dismissal, please?
Let us pray. Precious God, who is the Father of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Oh God, we thank you for this time, and we thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to be here. God, we thank you for your goodness and your mercy toward all of us. We thank you for this city. We thank you for the concerned citizens. We thank you for all of those who are people of faith. We thank you for Pastor Marbia and this great church. And oh God, we thank you for all of these candidates, and we pray that whoever is chosen will be of your will. We pray that you will bless them, do the best job they can for our students, that you will bless the board to do the right thing all the time. And we pray for our school system, pray for all of our students. God, we just pray for the safety. We just pray for the prosperity. We pray for the success of all of those who are a part of this great city. Now unto him who's able to keep us from falling and to present us faultless before his majesty with exceeding joy, to the only wise God, our Savior. To him we give all dominion, power forever. In Jesus' name, amen.